There are times in life when a single sentence, dictated with the lightness of those who do not measure the consequences, can detonate a storm that rocks everything along the way. This is the story of how an innocent comment during a family lunch changed the destination of us all. And it was no coincidence. It was for justice. Imagine the scene, a beautiful country house on the outskirts of Ekaterinburg, decorated for my mother's birthday. The family gathered, smiles of circumstances, the freshly bed in the air. In the center of the stage, the perfect family, my sister Nastia, her husband Igor and her 3 prodigy children, Kirill, the early poet, would give the pianist of agile fingers, and Mila, who sings like an angel since she learned to speak. And then, me, Marina. The daughter who was never enough. The mother of only one child, Pink, my 9-year-old daughter, sitting on the edge of the couch, squeezing a handmade card with a crooked heart drawn to the red pen against her heart. She spent hours careful in each letter, every trait. And when I said it was perfect, it was because I really was. As always, after tea and talks about accounts, renovations, and medicines, came the spectacle moment. My mother, of course, suggested that the children present themselves to the birthday girl. Because nothing rejoices a party more than turning grandchildren into circus artists, isn't it? Naja's children shone, as always. Kirill declared a poem that looked out of some classic book. Was it really his? He would play a Czerny study with mechanical accuracy that would envy a robot. Mila sang a song from the children's choir of the local cultural center, and the applause sounded like we were in Bolshoi. Until it was Rosa's turn. She got up, her hands shaking, the voice was a wire of sound. It sang congratulations to you as simply as possible, without firula, no performance, just a broken heart trying to do the best. In the second sentence, he missed the melody. The cheeks burned with shame. In the middle of the song, the throat squeezed, and she stopped. An embarrassing silence took over the room, followed by shy palms, almost out of obligation. Nastia's sons exchanged looks of superiority, as if they had just won a gold medal. Rosa sat back, still holding her crumpled card, her eyes full of water. And then came the final blow. Kirill, the eternal displayed, asked, "Can I again, Grandma?" and recited another poem, this time about the fall, so perfect that it seemed copied from some school manual. Another round of enthusiastic applause. And it was at that moment, between laughter and compliments, that my mother released the sentence that changed everything. "Sometimes I wanted you to be our only grandchildren." Said with a smile, like a joke. My father agreed with a nod, his lips bent in a satisfied smile. Nastia shrugged, as who says mother, for the sake of God, but said nothing. No one said. Laughter only stopped when everyone saw Pink. She looked at her grandmother, then to me, and the tears gushed unreshed. The chair grit when she suddenly got up and ran down the hallway, the thin shoulders shaking with the sobs. The silence that followed was so dense that you could cut with a knife. I got up. The heart was hitting so strong that I thought it was going to pass out. "Marina," my mother called that condescending tone she always used. For God's sake, it was just a joke. Joke? I didn't answer. I didn't trust myself at that moment. I went after my daughter and found her shrunk on the entrance floor, hugging the card, the wet cheeks and marked by crying. The small body trembled like a sheet. I knelt beside her, put my arm around her shoulders. "Let's go," I whispered, the embargoed voice. And we left. No shouts, no dramas, no look back. Only me, my daughter and the dry noise of the door closing. We passed the living room. The F. Nastia's children were tense as violin strings. My father stared at the table, the frozen expression. My mother's smile had turned into a forced, false grimace. The birthday cake was still intact, as if no one had the courage to touch it. No one tried to stop us. Outside, the air was fresh, typical of a September night. Rosa's little hand clung to mine as if her survival depended on her. In the car, an old Volkswagen, she leaned against my shoulder, crying my blouse. What to say at such a time? Didn't they want to say that? What was unintentionally? Lie. For her, that was the purest truth. And for me, only confirmation of what you always knew. So, said the only thing that mattered, "You're everything to me." Everything, you know? She nodded, still glued to me, but I saw in her eyes I didn't believe. The pain was too big. I connected the engine. My mother's voice was still echoing in my head, light, uncompromising, cruel. Sometimes I wanted you to be our only grandchildren. They thought it was a joke. They thought it would pass. They had no idea what was coming. Because for my daughter, that was not a joke, it was a stab. And for me it was the drop of water. They did not know, but soon their perfectly organized life would begin to collapse, brick by brick, screw by screw, until it became dust. They say all children are a blessing. My parents clearly never heard this saying. I was born when they barely came out of adolescence, the result of an accident, a plan that went wrong. They never said that out loud, but I felt in every look, every sigh, every poisoned joke. You owe us, Marinka, laughed my father. We could be in college if it wasn't for you. You cost us everything, added my mother, always with a smile, as if the mood could disguise the poison. But I knew. Even at 6, he understood that they were not jokes. Then years of comparison came. Until Nastia was born, the golden daughter, the chosen one, the one they really wanted, when they were older, more stable, more ready. For her, balloons, photo albums, applause for anything. For me, clothes inherited from cousins and eternal guilt for daring to exist. My childhood was like this, she shone, I survived. And that's when I took an oath, if I can't be desired, I will be indispensable. In my family, no one had passed a technical course. We were workers to the marrow. My father drove trucks, my mother worked on the accounting of a factory. But I clung to studies like a castaway to a lifeguard. Each test, each exam, each Olympics was a step to get out of the hole. When I won a place with full scholarship at the university, and on top of it with an extra bag, I thought, maybe now? They didn't spend a penny. Their relief was visible. One less concern, I heard my mother say on the phone to an aunt. Imagine, your daughter gets a governor's bag, and you just think you won't need to pay anything. Even so, I still fed a foolish hope. Maybe when I became a lawyer, when I was successful, they would finally look at me differently. They had a small transport company, some old van, a lot of headaches with licenses, inspections, endless paperwork. I grew up listening to his laments. If we had a lawyer in the family, we wouldn't go through it. I decided, so I would be this lawyer. It would be the saving, which would solve all the problems. For a while, it even worked. I graduated, got a place in a prestigious office branch of a large firm in Moscow, and started making real money. For the first time in his life, he had a bank account with a balance, not just debts that dragged on until the next payment. I started sending 25,000 rubles per month for my parents to pay off. House mortgage. For the first time in family history, a daughter was not a weight, but a support. And their business? I organized all the paperwork, wrote answers to tax notifications, discussed with auditors, prepared proceedings for the arbitral tribunal when competitors reported them to the antitrust authority. All for free, of course. Before me, only fines and processes. Then silence. Even growth. They bought another van. And I thought, now. It may not earn love, but at least respect. Then came the promotion. I was 32 years old, I was single, but I was one step to become senior with a salary close to 200,000. My parents vibrated, calculating the more I could contribute. Until life interfered. I got pregnant. Not planned, not desired. A passing involvement with a Moscow office colleague, who didn't even think about taking something serious. He sends pension sporadically, seeks Rosa a weekend every 2 months. Other than that, it does not exist in our lives. My parents were straightforward, abort her. Don't spoil your career. But when I saw those 2 lines in the test, something inside me rearmed. For the first time, I didn't feel a mistake. I felt that there, in that fragile positive, was my purpose. I kept the rose. And she became the best decision I ever made. My parents were furious. You again spoil everything, Marina. I refused the promotion. I accepted a simpler position, with flexible hours, exchanging professional rise for the chance to raise my daughter. And I was happy. I'm happy to this day. But they never forgive me for choosing love instead of money. Rosa is 9 years old now. A quiet girl who hides behind her drawings. With a pencil in her hand, she is safer than before any audience. She is my universe. And despite everything, the indirect, the charges, I kept helping my parents. The same 25,000 per month. Free legal consultancies so that their career would not sink. Because, deep down, I still believed, maybe I am a good daughter. Maybe one day they understand. Until, 2 weeks before that damn birthday, everything changed. They offered me a place in an elite office. High salary, flexible time. The same position that had refused pregnant. As if fate gave me a second chance. This time I could accept it. Rosa had already grown. I learned to balance motherhood and work. I planned to surprise my parents on my mother's birthday. You can retire quietly. I take them out of this. I didn't even open my mouth. My mother looked at Rosa and let out, with the naturalness of those who comment the time, the only grandchildren we want are those of Nastia. In that second, every sacrifice, every cruel joke, every debt I paid, though they were never mine, hit me like a punch in the stomach. It was not insurance for them. I was the scapegoat. And pink, collateral damage. When we left, squeezing my daughter's hand, she knew something they ignored. They thought it was another joke, which I would overcome, as always. But this time, I put an end point. And soon, their lives would begin to crumble. On the way home, Rosa was silent, the forehead against the car's glass. I wanted to fill that silence with magic words to erase what she had heard. There are no words like that. At night, already in bed with her drawing album on her lap, she finally asked, "Mom, why did the grandma said that?" She really meant. No child should ask this question. I sat next to her. What she said was wrong. Cruel. And it doesn't matter if she thought it was a joke, it's not funny. You're amazing. And I'll never let anyone make you feel less than that. It was not a beautiful speech. It was the truth she needed to hear. When Rosa fell asleep, I opened the notebook and entered the internet banking. The finger stopped on the screen for a moment. Cancel automatic payment. 25,000 rubles per month. Confirm. A click and years trying to buy an affection that has never been for sale have been deleted. Then I typed a message, "Don't tell me anymore for free legal help. Hire a lawyer." I looked at the screen, sent, closed the laptop. The next morning my phone exploded. "Marina, let's talk when you warm your head," said my mother. "Do not make hasty decisions, will regret," echoed my father. At night the tone has changed. "Daughter, license renewal is winning. It's just 5 minutes to send the documents. Sister, do this favor for the father, it's important." I turned the phone with the screen down. Silence stretched for days, interrupted only by insistent notifications I ignored. Then came the panic. "Dad, if we delay, the fines are huge. Please, Marina." "Mom," answers the phone. "Stop acting as a child." As a child. The irony almost made me laugh. I let them boil. The calls accumulated, the voice messages became increasingly desperate. After 4 days, I said, "Dries, not by phone. By message. Hire a lawyer." He finished. An hour later, the phone kept ringing. I left it in the dumb. In the 10th call, I answered. "What is happening to you?" shouted my mother. "You can't just cut us like this." I already cut. My father's voice broke out, loaded with indignation. "We created you, we gave you everything." I almost laugh, bitter. I paid this debt a long time ago. My debt has been paid. Ungrateful, my mother spit. "No," I said. "Free." And I hung up. At night, Rosa was at the kitchen table, drawing with the concentration she only saw when she tried to solve a math problem. Pushed the paper toward me. A girl with a brush at the top of a mountain. "Is it you?" I asked. She nodded. "Mom, I wanted to go to that art school that Dosha's friend attend. But it's expensive, right?" I looked again at the drawing. For the girl above the mountain. "No more," he said. "Are you going to study there?" Rosa blinked confused. "What?" I smiled. It was the first genuine smile after days. I got away. You go. Her face lit up. For the first time since the words of the grandmother. A wide, open, pure smile, the joy of those who once again believed in miracles. If they asked my parents why I stopped helping, they would just say, it was stuck. The phrase came to me from Aunt Galia, who called a Melosa voice a morning, Marinka, your mother says you changed after your new job. Do you think it's too good for us now? Too good. Almost laughs. It came from people who once said that storing pink was the worst mistake of my life. They lost their chance, I said, dries, when they told Rosa they only wanted Nastia's grandchildren. The silence on the other side was long. Then the aunt. He whispered, with a voice that trembled between unbelief and remorse. Did they really say that? Yes. And that's how the gossip wheel turned in the opposite direction. While my parents spread the version of their ungrateful daughter who had abandoned them for money and career, I just told the truth. And the truth, as has been found, bites more than any lie. The calls began to rain. Cousins with whom I had not spoken for years. Igor's relatives, to Uncle Tulia, my father's brother, who didn't even remember my birthday. Why did you cut them out? All the voices were stuffy, as if they were discussing a crime. And I answered, without hysteria, without drama, just facts. On my mother's birthday, they told Rosa that they only wanted Nastia's children as their grandchildren. Silence. Then the indignation. Poor Rose, exclaimed a cousin from Chelyabinsk. She is only 9 years old, muttered another. Unbelievable. And so, the legend carefully built over the shifted daughter who turned her back on her family began to crumble. Some relatives were still muttering forgiving and forgetting, but most began to look at my parents in another way. And they felt. Until the connection that Moo came. I give it all. He was a colleague, the same one I had told about the new job proposal a few weeks before the fateful birthday. About how I planned to surprise my parents, finally say they could retire without worry. His voice was loaded with guilt. Marina, I think I ruined everything. What happened? I came across her parents on the net, she let go. I thought they already knew and asked how the survival was, that increase, the financial stability. I closed my eyes and imagined the scene clearly, my mother, clinging to the supermarket cart, my father with open mouth, both realizing, in a second, what they had thrown away. They didn't know, I said. No. And from their faces they understood what they had lost. It was then that my parents' desperation reached the limit. The previously demanding messages have become supplicants. We miss you. Let's talk. It was just a joke. We didn't want. Everyone makes mistakes. Let's fix it. Until, on a Saturday, the intercom played. I opened the door and came across them, holding the most ridiculous cake I've ever seen, huge, covered with sick pink icing, with the inscription to our dear granddaughter, Pink, in trembling and clumsy letters. If hypocrisy were an Olympic sport, they would gain gold. My mother's smile was so forced that it looked like her face could crack at any moment. We did this to Rosinha, she announced, with a false joy. To show you how much we love her. Almost laughs. Not of happiness, but of pain. Normal grandparents swear that they love all grandchildren the same. Mine decided, overnight, crowning a favorite, as if a bought cake could erase the desire that she had never existed. I leaned against the stop, crossing my arms. The rose is not. Their faces shook. My father recomposed himself. So you see later. We just want to fix things. Fix it, I repeated. After telling my daughter she was not desired. Do you think this pathetic cake will erase everything? Daughter, my mother started. You didn't come through the rose. They came for my 25,000 a month. That cake would not buy the way back. Her smile collapsed for good. My father held the box like a lifeguard. Please, my mother whispered, and despair finally overflowed. Let us come in. Like people. No. Take your cake and go away. And that's what they did. 2 curved figures dragged to the car, squeezing its sweet and useless offer. The neighbors, of course, saw everything. Until dusk, half of the building already knew the history of the cake. The collapse came slowly, then in avalanche. First, They delayed the renewal of the transport license. A small fine of Rostransnadza, boring but bearable. Then came the inspection. Route booklets, a chaos. Medical examinations of the drivership. Tachographers half didn't work. Everything I once resolved with my eyes closed now turned folded fines. In a month, a competitor from Transervice filed a complaint to UFAS. My parents tried to defend themselves alone in Sverdlovsk's arbitral tribunal. I heard after Uncle Tulia, who was present, were curled up, contradicted themselves, practically handed over the case with kissed hands. The fines devoured all economies. At the end of the year, Ural Logistic went bankrupt. The fleet was auctioned to pay debts. Nastia, who was already in the chair of family business director, wrapped her hands. And without my 25,000 a month, without my protection, my parents began to delay the mortgage. In 6 months, the house was auctioned. My life, in contrast, flourished. Rosa became the school of art. One afternoon, she ran home, panting, squeezing a drawing against her chest. "Mom, they hung my work on the wall. The teacher said he's one of the best in the class." For the first time, my daughter's talent was not ignored. For the first time, it was celebrated. At work, everything also fitted. The new company gave me challenging cases, colleagues who respected me. I didn't survive anymore. Finally, I was in my place. And then Gleb came up, a widower I met in the mornings of taking Rosa to art class. His daughter, Lilia, also drew. At first we only waited for the children together. Then the tours after classes became dinner. For the first time in years, I felt something I found lost forever: possibility. Sometimes I remember that cake. From my parents' faces when they understood that I would not let them in. From the friend's voice describing how they froze in the nets, realizing what they had thrown away. Hence, because I was really ready to give them everything, to take care until the end of their lives. But they chose a joke that was not funny. They bet everything. As their lives crumbled, mine finally built. They said that I would always be your B plan. As they lost me, they lost everything. A year later, Rosa is unrecognizable. That shy girl who fled her birthday no longer exists. At the art school, his works are in a prominent place in the corridor. It speaks of traces, sweets, hot and cold tones with a confidence that I only dreamed of having. Seeing her enter school every morning with her head held high is worth more than all the money I wasted with my parents. My life has also changed. The new company became home. The increase was not just a position. It was stability, respect, the freedom to choose the future. And Gleb. He's not just the widower of the morning ride. He and Lilia moved here a few months ago. In childhood, I dreamed of 2 children. Then life happened. When Rosa was born, I had more than 30, alone. I told myself that that dream was over. A daughter only. And thank God. But in quiet moments, I still missed the family I wouldn't have. And then the old wish came true in a way that I never imagined. Rosa and Lilia are like sisters. Rooms side by side, walls full of drawings, night whispers until they slept. We and Gleb created them together as a team. From my parents, sparse news comes. They rent a tiny apartment on the periphery, away from the country house they so much showed. The business has evaporated. Nastia boils with anger. The heritage she expected turned dust. The relatives that before, those who once defended them to clenched teeth today maintain a prudent distance. Everyone knows the story. The same grandparents who, with false smiles and sweet words, whispered to their granddaughter what they really thought. This is their legacy. This is the truth that no one else hides. And now you ask me, did I go too far? Or just corrected what was a long time crooked? Life, after all, has a cruel way of returning each choice in the same coin. And this time, the coin was mine.